They say you can't change the past. But what if the past comes looking for you? What if, in the middle of the night, the ghost that knocks isn't someone else's, but your own? It was 3:47 a.m. when Ozzy Osbourne woke up, gasping, surrounded by smoke and the faint smell of burnt wood. He blinked twice, confused. The ceiling above him wasn't the one from his Beverly Hills home. It was the cracked, yellowed plaster of a place he hadn't seen in 40 years. The air was thick with dust, and on the wall hung a poster of Black Sabbath, young and wild, their eyes staring right back at him like a haunting echo. And that's when he realized he was standing inside his old studio, the one that had burned down decades ago. Before we go any further, remember this. Stories like these aren't told everywhere. The kind that make you question reality, memory, and the parts of yourself you'd rather forget. Here on Fame Angle, we dig into those moments, where truth, fear, and fame collide. So if you think you're ready for the kind of story that leaves you staring at your own reflection a little longer tonight, stay with me till the end. You might not be the same person when it's over. Ozzy rubbed his eyes. The room was smaller than he remembered, the floor sticky with spilled beer. Old amps hummed faintly even though they weren't plugged in. On the desk lay a reel-to-reel tape recorder, its spools turning by themselves. A faint melody floated out, half a song, familiar yet unfinished. He leaned closer, heart pounding. It was his voice, but not as he sounded now, younger, rawer, alive. "What the hell?" he muttered, stepping back. And then he heard another sound, footsteps. Slow, confident, and coming from behind. He turned and froze. Standing in the doorway, barefoot, cigarette in hand, wearing torn jeans and that same black crucifix necklace, was a version of himself he hadn't seen since 1973. The young Ozzy smirked. "Didn't think I'd see you again, old man." For a second, Ozzy thought he was hallucinating. "You're not real," he whispered. The younger him chuckled. "Neither is half your life, mate." He moved closer, circling Ozzy like a predator inspecting prey. "Look at you," he sneered. "All the money, the fame, the awards. But the fire's gone, isn't it?" Ozzy felt something sting deep inside, the way truth always does. "You don't understand," he said, his voice trembling. "You've got no idea what it cost to survive this long," the young one laughed bitterly. "Survive? You call this surviving? You're a shadow hiding behind pills, cameras, and interviews. You traded music for noise. You don't sing anymore. You confess." He realized he wasn't just dreaming. The dream was remembering him. Ozzy stepped back, clutching the old mic stand for balance. "You're just a memory," he said. "A ghost of who I was." "You keep telling yourself that," said the younger Ozzy, tapping ash on the floor. "But you're standing in my studio, aren't you?" "My place, my time. You came to me." The old man shook his head. "I didn't come anywhere." The young one smiled faintly. "Then why is your heart beating like you just saw the truth?" For a moment, they stood in silence, the hum of the tape filling the air. Then the young Ozzy walked to the old Gibson guitar resting on the stool. He strummed a few strings, the same haunting melody from the tape. A song Ozzy remembered but never finished. "Recognize this?" the young one said. "You left it halfway. Just like you left yourself halfway." The melody grew stronger. The notes curled through the air like smoke, wrapping around the older man's chest. Every insult the young man threw felt like the truth he'd buried for decades. Ozzy sank into a chair, trembling. "You think I wanted it like this?" he shouted. "You think I asked to lose myself? The world wanted the madman, the Prince of Darkness. I just gave them what they asked for." The younger Ozzy leaned forward, his eyes burning with fury. "No, you gave them everything and left nothing for yourself." A silence followed, long, heavy, suffocating. Then, suddenly, the young one's tone softened. "You still remember how it felt, don't you? That first rush when the music wasn't about fame or pain or money. When it was just sound?" The older Ozzy hesitated. His eyes darted to the guitar. "Yeah," he whispered. "It used to mean everything." "Then prove it," the younger self said, handing him the guitar. He hesitated, then took it. The wood felt warm, almost alive. He plucked a string, just one note, and the sound echoed too long, as if the room itself was breathing. The young Ozzy smiled faintly. Still there. Buried, but breathing. They began to play together, one chord, then another, their voices blending into something haunting and familiar. The melody grew deeper, almost spiritual. The dream shifted, colors blurring, walls melting away. Each note pulled him deeper, closer to something he wasn't ready to face. Images flashed around him. Sharon's face, his children, the stadium lights, the nights of chaos, the mornings of shame. He felt everything, the glory and the guilt, as the music poured out like confession. Then the younger Ozzy stopped playing. "You hear that?" he said quietly. Ozzy listened. In the distance, faintly, he could hear whispers, his own voice through time, repeating the same lines over and over, but in reverse. "What's happening?" he asked. The young one looked straight at him. "You're inside the song, and the song's inside you." Suddenly, everything went dark. Only the mirror across the room remained visible. The young version vanished, and the older Ozzy found himself standing before it, the guitar slipping from his fingers. The reflection stared back, but it wasn't just one reflection. It was dozens. Himself at 20, 30, 50, 70, every era flashing by, every version overlapping, arguing, screaming. "You didn't lose your voice," the reflection whispered. "You lost your reason." Ozzy stumbled backward. "Stop it," he begged. "I don't want to see this." But the mirror didn't stop. It showed his worst moments, collapses on stage, the fights, the tears, the loneliness after the crowd's roar faded. He wasn't sure which version of himself wanted to wake up. Then he saw something else. The youngest version, barefoot, smiling, holding a small tape recorder. "Remember this?" it said. "Before the fame? Before the chaos?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I recorded my first song on that." The child smiled, pressed play, and the same unfinished melody began again. But this time it sounded different, sadder, older, more human. "Finish it," the child said. Ozzy tried to sing, but his voice cracked. Tears streamed down his face. "I don't remember the words," he whispered. "Then make new ones," the reflection said. The walls began to shake. The sound grew louder. Mirrors around him shattered one by one, each breaking with a flash of memory. His first concert, his first heartbreak, his first drink, his first regret. He covered his ears, but the melody only grew stronger, echoing through his bones. "Stop!" he shouted. The mirror in front of him split down the middle with a deafening crack. Light poured through the cracks, blinding, pure, overwhelming. He could hear the young Ozzy's voice fading. "You can't run from me. I'm the part you left unfinished." Ozzy fell to his knees, clutching his chest. His heart raced. His vision blurred, and through the chaos, one last phrase slipped through the light. "When you wake up, finish the song." The world exploded into silence. When he opened his eyes, he was back in his Beverly Hills bedroom. Sweat drenched his body, his heart still pounding. The morning sun spilled through the curtains. For a moment, he thought it was over. Just a dream. Just another weird episode of his restless mind. But then he noticed something. On the nightstand beside his bed lay a small, dusty tape recorder. He hadn't seen it in years. The red light was blinking. He picked it up, his hands trembling, and pressed play. The same melody filled the room. The one from the dream. Only now it wasn't unfinished. It was complete. The voice singing wasn't his older one. It was young, full of fire. His own voice from decades ago, finishing the song he'd left behind. His breath caught in his throat. The lyrics were new. He'd never written them. "I was lost in the noise, but I found me in the sound." He sat frozen, staring at the recorder, feeling the world shift inside him. He thought it was just a dream, until he found the recording. And as the tape spun, slow and steady, one final truth echoed through his mind. Sometimes the past doesn't haunt you to hurt you. Sometimes it comes back to remind you of who you were, before the world told you who to be. And that night, somewhere between dream and memory, Ozzy realized he hadn't woken up at all. The dream had simply changed keys. When he pressed play, the voice on the tape wasn't his. It was younger, sharper, full of life, the kind of voice that carried storms and silence in the same breath. Ozzy froze, the tape spinning steadily in his trembling hands. That melody, that impossible song, was no longer unfinished. It was complete, but how? The notes wrapped around him like a haunting memory, whispering through the cracks of his mind. Each word felt alive, as if the dream had followed him back into waking life. The room was still. The world outside was distant. All that existed was that voice, singing the song he had started in the dream. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. This wasn't just a recording. It was a message. He played it again. The voice shifted slightly, softer this time, almost pleading. Every strum echoed through the air like it was meant to pull him somewhere he hadn't dared go in years. The sound was real. The pain was real. The past was real, and that's where it began. He couldn't stop listening. Morning turned into afternoon, then into night, but the tape never stopped spinning. He tried to record it again, to capture the melody with his own voice. But every time he did, the sound twisted, warped, distorted, resisting him. It was like the song didn't want to be remade. It wanted to be remembered. He sat in that same chair for hours, sweat dripping down his temples, guitar across his knees. "Come on," he muttered, strumming again. "Let me finish it." But every time he tried, the chords turned wrong. Too sharp. Too hollow. The moment he reached for the heart of the music, it slipped away. It was as if the dream itself was alive, and it didn't trust him yet. He felt it in his bones. That strange pull, that whisper that told him there was something missing. Not in the song, but in him, so he searched. He went back to the old boxes, the ones he hadn't opened in years. Yellowed notebooks, scribbled lyrics, burnt Polaroids. Dust rose like smoke every time he lifted a lid. He found letters he didn't remember writing, fragments of songs that were never finished, echoes of a man who had lost himself to fame and chaos. Then, tucked inside a cracked drawer of his old studio desk, he found it, a folded, fragile sheet of paper. Dated 1973, the handwriting was his, uneven, drunk on youth. But the words, they were too calm, too aware. At the top it said, "Forgive the noise." He stared at it, barely breathing. The lyrics beneath were strange, almost prophetic. "The louder I scream, the less I am heard. The quieter I become, the more I return." He felt a chill crawl up his spine. He didn't remember writing that. But it was his hand, his ink, his ghost. He whispered the title aloud, "Forgive the noise." And suddenly it hit him. The song wasn't about music. It wasn't about fame. It was about mercy. He realized the younger version of himself, the one from the dream, wasn't haunting him to taunt him. He was begging him to understand, to stop running, to forgive himself for the noise, the madness, the masks he'd worn to survive. He picked up his guitar again, the paper shaking in his hands. The same melody returned, slow, fragile, like it was waiting for him to listen this time. He didn't record it. He just played. Each note became a confession. Every chord carried a piece of the man he used to be. His voice cracked, but it didn't matter. For once, he wasn't performing. He wasn't the legend or the rock god or the showman. He was just a man trying to talk to his own soul. Hours passed like minutes. He played until dawn. And somewhere in between, he began to hear something else. Faint, distant, almost hidden beneath the sound. A second voice. It wasn't from the tape. It wasn't from the speakers. It was inside his head. The young Ozzy, the dream, singing with him, harmonizing perfectly. The same voice he'd once lost to time. For the first time in decades, he wasn't performing. He was confessing. Tears streamed down his face as the music filled the room, swelling, breaking, healing. The sound wasn't polished or perfect, but it was real. And when the final chord faded, something changed. The air grew still. The dawn's first light slid across the floor, painting the walls gold. And the mirror, the same one that had shattered in his dream, now stood whole again in the corner. No cracks, no fragments, just his reflection. Older, softer, peaceful. He looked at himself for a long time, breathing in silence. Then, almost smiling, he whispered, "I finally heard you." The sun rose higher. The tape stopped spinning. And for the first time in years, the noise was gone. But that wasn't the end. 3 days later, his assistant entered the studio. The air smelled faintly of cigarettes and rain. The old tape recorder was still there, red light blinking. It had been recording all night. She pressed play, static, then music. Ozzy's voice, not the old, cracked one, but the young, wild tone that once shook arenas. The song flowed clearly, each line haunting and beautiful, and at the very end, a sound no one expected. Laughter. Soft, careless laughter. The same one from the dream. The assistant froze. There was no one else in the room, but the tape played on. The laughter faded into silence, leaving behind one last whispered line, Ozzy's voice but layered, as if past and present were speaking together. He didn't wake from the dream. The dream woke from him. The tape clicked off, and that's when the door creaked slightly, a cold gust sweeping through the studio. The papers on the desk fluttered. The guitar strings vibrated faintly, as if an invisible hand had brushed them. The melody, "Forgive the Noise," echoed one last time, like a heartbeat refusing to fade. They say music never dies, but this wasn't about music anymore. This was about memory. About the parts of ourselves we bury so deep we forget to visit them. About the echoes that wait patiently for us to return. That night, fans across the world noticed something strange. Ozzy's official account uploaded a track titled "Forgive the Noise," no announcement. No promo, no explanation. Just the song, raw, unfiltered, untouched by modern hands. Listeners swore they could hear two voices blending, one old, one young. One from this world, one from somewhere else. The comments exploded. Is this real? It sounds like 1973 Ozzy and 2025 Ozzy together. How's that possible? But the file had no metadata. No studio credits. No location tag. Only one line in the description. Some songs finish themselves. And then, after 12 hours, the track disappeared. Gone, but not forgotten. Those who managed to save it claimed that when played at low volume, you could hear something faintly beneath the melody, a whispered sentence, looping endlessly. I was lost in the noise, but I found me in the sound. Weeks passed. Ozzy never spoke of it publicly. Reporters asked, fans speculated, theories spread like wildfire. But behind the silence, something changed in him. He was seen walking the streets more often, alone, without an entourage. He smiled more, talked less. One fan said they saw him sitting by a cafe window, scribbling lyrics on a napkin, humming softly to himself. And when someone asked what he was working on, he simply said, something that doesn't need to be heard, just felt. That night, the sky over Los Angeles turned the same shade of gold as the dawn that had filled his studio. Sometimes the loudest redemption comes from the quietest notes. The next morning, a light rain fell. The studio remained locked, untouched. But from the outside, passers-by swore they could hear faint guitar strings humming through the walls, the same haunting tune, the same unfinished grace. Inside, the tape recorder sat still. Its red light blinked one last time before fading out. The mirror across the room reflected nothing but light. Endless, gentle light. And in that reflection, if you looked closely enough, you could almost see him, younger, barefoot, smiling, holding that same old guitar. He wasn't haunting anymore. He was home. Somewhere between dream and waking, silence and sound, the legend had found peace, and that's how a man who'd seen everything, fame, chaos, addiction, love, loss, finally found himself again. Not on a stage, not in front of millions, but in a quiet room, finishing a song that refused to die. And that's how a legend learned that the past never dies. It just waits to be heard again. You're watching Fame Angle, where truth sounds louder than fame.